Well, boys and girls, we're about to get deep. Um, I
And
had,
we're back.
I had therapy today. It's my third session. I've never had a therapy that I actually like kind of enjoyed. I tried therapy a couple years ago, when I still lived like and I was working in college and shit. And the lady that I went to there had just lost her husband, and so
Oh,
90% of the time that basically I was supposed to be getting therapy, I was being her therapist, and
Jesus, dude.
yeah, it was that we did not help each other much. Um,
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine you're the right person to be giving therapy to a therapist. That's kind of backwards, but I don't know. I know.
oh, I mean, I did okay because I actually talked to her about coping mechanisms, but she,
Actually, that's a good coping. He's like, oh, I never thought about that. Even though I'm the fucking therapist.
yeah, I paid her to give her advice. It was good. Yeah, I did not enjoy that because then I just got a bill in the mail for like $800 one day, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, I bitched to you about not
I
having money
taught
for
you how to
weeks.
get over your husband.
Yeah, I talked to you about not having money and that scaring me, and I was in college. Like, I'm a poor
Well,
college
was
student, and
she
then all of a sudden you're gonna fucking tell me that I owe you this amount of fucking money. And so
was
when I
she a
sent her
part
the
of
check
like
with the money, I sent her a letter saying like, hey,
fuck you?
why the fuck did you not address this? And I never heard anything back. But
Was she a part of like a big like group of therapists?
no, that's the thing. She was on her own. Like,
Oh,
she had her
oh.
own private practice. That's why it pissed me off even worse.
I was gonna say because like if she was a part of like a big like group place, then it probably could have just been like the dues that they require. But if she was like doing a private practice, that's kind of bullshit considering you helped her more than she helped you.
Absolutely. No, and I agree. I mean, I never went back to her after that. But yeah, the person I go to now is really cool, and like I actually didn't. So I didn't know when I signed up. I thought I was just signing up for normal therapy, but we actually are doing music therapy, and it's not like I'm sitting there banging a fucking drum or anything shit like that yet. I don't know. She's talked about like how she'll do instrument like therapy, like to where like she has people playing and shit, but we're not there yet. I'm still talking it out, but it is like normal talk therapy, but where like a person like me, like I find a lot of coping for myself in music. Um, I have like I she basically got me to make a playlist with songs that hit me really deep lyrically, and then send it to her, and she picked from that. And we like basically listen to the song in therapy with the lyrics printed out, and I'll highlight, parts of the song that hit me deep. And we're still on the first song, three
Good
weeks
lord, dude.
in, and we're only like 4 lines in.
Damn.
Yeah, it's the song is soundtrack to my life by Kid Cudi. Anybody that knows that song knows that it hits fucking deep, and you can get into anything. Like if you pull up the lyrics of that song right now, like you'll understand. And like the more you listen to this podcast, the more you'll understand
So
like how everything in this like affects me, like how everything in that song can relate.
as a
Were
Kid
you saying
Cudi
something?
novice, you want to unpack that a little bit? What
Yeah,
was the song called?
soundtrack to my life. And so we can actually stop if you want to listen to it
No, I
real
was just
quick,
gonna
and
listen to
or
it while
just
you
pull up the
talk
lyrics.
and listen to the lyrics.
Yeah,
Oh, it's spelled with the two.
yeah, it's got the number two.
Alright.
Sorry, soundtrack number two, and then My Life
Soundtrack.
by Kid Cudi. It's fucking deep,
That is
but
some wacky art. I got 99 problems and they all bitches. Alright, I see where you're coming from.
yeah, good line, good opener.
Alright, it's starting on my end, so if you want to start talking about this song. Oh, I think I found the line!
Yeah,
Line number 4, isn't it?
yeah, we're here. I'll pull up the lyrics actually myself, and we'll start unpacking it. How about like, yeah, we just unpack it on here, and I'll talk about how it affected me in
Yeah.
therapy. How's that? All right, let's do that. Because I
Pull
don't
it
have
up
them
on
pulled up yet,
Genius.
and
That's what I got pulled up on.
I left the I left the lyrics in my car. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so we got to the chorus today. Uh, I've got some issues and nobody can see, and all of these emotions are pouring out of me. I bring them to the light for you. It's only right. This is the soundtrack to my life. Uh, there's and then the next line is I'm super paranoid like a sixth sense since my father died. I ain't been right since. Uh, it's like a lot of that. Yeah, like I just especially growing up in the home that I grew up in, like it just I had a lot of darkness and anger that wasn't able to be expressed, and I have a lot of guilt towards a lot of things. Like I moved out of my home when I was 12, and moved in with my dad. I moved out of my mom's house with my brothers. Um, I had my older brother and my younger brother, and I moved out and left them. And so like my stepdad was there, who was my littlest brother's dad, and yeah, the final, like the straw that broke the camel's back was an incident that involved me and my little brother getting in a fight, and his dad basically pushing me against the doorway and blaming me for some shit, and my mom blaming me for some shit, and it just it broke the camel's back. And he, like my stepdad, like threatened me and said, if you hurt my son again, I will end you.
Now, is this,
And
if you don't mind me asking?
yeah, it's dad.
Don't you have a good
His
relationship?
dad.
Or no, he divorced your mom, didn't he?
Yeah, they got a divorce
That's what I thought.
here recently, though. It wasn't
Was it while we were in high
during
school?
that time period. It was around freshman year of high school.
So it was before we started talking.
Because that was right when my littlest sister was born.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and but that's a story for another time. But yeah, like during all that, like I have a lot of guilt because like my little brother, like I mean he, I had to leave him behind, and I couldn't answer phone calls from my older brother, even though he helped me. Because like when me and my older brother, we were gonna go fishing that day. And so we got in this big fight. I was threatened by my stepdad, and they took my phone, took all this shit from me, and basically they threatened to I got my life threatened as
Oh
a
my
12-year-old,
God,
and my brother took me to go fishing, and I borrowed his phone. I called my dad, told him what happened, and I had already packed my bags, and so I never lived another day underneath my mom's roof.
I don't blame you, dude.
But
That's just crazy.
what sucks is I never got to I was able to talk to my brother a few years later, my little brother, and explain that it wasn't his fault. Like that day, like we wrestled, and when we wrestled rough, and unfortunately he ended up like grabbing a knife and running after me. And he was a kid. He was like 9, 10 years old. Like he was a kid doing a dumb kid thing, and I don't blame him. Like I understand, like you're angry, you're dumb, like you're a kid, you just don't understand the gravity of the situation. I locked myself in the bathroom, and I yelled for my mom. And when my mom come upstairs, she immediately, like, I unlocked the door, made sure it was her, and she said, well, like I told her what happened, and she said, okay, what did you do? Didn't ask any of the other situation, didn't scold or nothing, just what did you do?
Did she like ask how you were?
To me.
Jesus.
No, just immediately I told her what happened, and she said, well, what did you do?
That's
So
awful.
I was, yeah, it just, I kind of have, like, that's why I have, like, an anger thing whenever it comes to people accusing me of things.
I mean,
now.
that's a logical thing to be upset
yeah.
about. Is somebody just comes out and accuses you of something, even if it's nothing like that bad, it's still frustrating. But like coming from your mother, who is like the person that person is supposed to love you with no strings attached, to just outright accuse you of something immediately with no reason to.
That
It's
yeah,
wild.
something to so much so that like my little brother could have stabbed me. But that's the thing, though, is that like I hold nothing against him. I want him to understand that if he ever listens to this, I hold nothing against him.
Dylan, we're going
It's
to go
not
see
him
a concert with
in
him.
any way, shape, or form. Exactly, I love him in every fucking, with every bone in my body, I held nothing against him. I understand that you're a kid, you made a kid decision, and shit happens. I've got nothing against that. What sucks is that I couldn't ever fucking talk to him because he didn't have a phone. He didn't at the time. And then like my older brother, I couldn't answer phone calls from my older brother because my mom would try to call me from my older brother's phone. And I didn't want to talk to her. I wanted to move in with my dad and leave that shit behind. I was tired of getting hit every day or fucking screamed at every day or accused of fucking whatever. And was I a great kid? Not in the sense of like I didn't argue. Like I argued about everything. But like I got hit so much that it fucking made me into
Maybe
such
it's
a
a
smartass.
defense
I couldn't fight
mechanism.
back with my hands, so I fought back with my words. Yeah, I'm such a smartass now because like this was explained to me today in therapy. It's like, yeah, like if you can't fight back with your hands, you fight back with your words, and that's why I'm such a fucking smartass. And I never realized that. Like, but yeah, so like we talked about that, and like I held this guilt. I had such a strong sense of guilt for like him and like his, why he like his mental's not being fantastic at times, and I know like we all go through our struggles, and me and him our relationship has gotten better as we've gotten older, but unfortunately, like he doesn't talk as much, and his dad never talks. That's the thing. His dad's a dick, and he just doesn't talk.
I
Um,
understand that.
and like you need to express yourself. You need to talk about these things. If you have an issue like that needs to be address it. And you don't have to talk about it with your friends. You don't have to talk about it with you just talk about it with
That's
somebody,
why I
dude.
think like if you get a
Somebody.
good therapist that is actually like actively trying to help you, they are honestly like great people to talk to. Like I went to one after high school, and he like I'm sure whatever I was talking about was menial compared to some of the shit that people were saying to him, but he listened intently, and he did his darndest to help me get over what I was having problems with. And unfortunately, his stuff wasn't the best for me. I just needed to man up and stop being such a bitch. But like even to this day though, like some of the things that he has said to me, they have stuck with me, and like they do help. It's wild to think that years down the road, I'll think back on something and I'm like, that actually is a great way of thinking about it. Like I remember one of the things he said to me, because I had bad anxiety in high school, and one of the things he said to me was, if you're feeling anxious about an upcoming event or something of the like, that you visualize that anxiety as not fear, but as excitement for something. But
Dude, I love that. Yeah, I love that. When you told me that the first time, like I use that so much now for when I feel anxiety about something. I realize like, oh wait, it's not that I don't want to do it. It's that I'm excited to get this
like
opportunity.
even now, like just going out to do, like for instance, going out for a cruise with one of my friends, like I get anxious about it, and there's no reason to. Like it's something I love doing. It's so much fun, but like there's still that like gnawing sensation in my head about it, and I have to like force myself to reset and think about it in a different light, or else I'll just not want to do it and won't do it.
Yeah, and shit. What did you said something a second ago that reminded me of something? But all right, either way, like the perspective. Yeah, like giving you a different perspective on it. Like I got some new perspectives today on things that I never would have had. I've never gotten these perspectives, and like a big thing too is that like for me, like I have a problem with purpose. Like I haven't felt a purpose, and like since my dad died, I ain't been right since. Like that's where like part of the lyrics of the song hit hard. Like since then, like like I had some issues with feeling a purpose, even feeling like getting out of bed on days, but what keeps me going, and what used to keep me going was anger. I had a lot of anger from this, from my life and from that growing up that way, and it did work in a way, but what she opened my eyes to is that once you run on anger for so long, um, your body just rejects it. It no longer uses it as fuel, and then instead it turns into a depression, and it get really fucking dark. And so you have to, change that anger and change your perspective on it, and just let it go. And so find a way of letting it go, and that's where like working out and shit like that has helped me cope with that. But changing my perspective on some things, and Yeah, like what you said about like you know, you feeling that your problems were menial to others. That's one thing like I had to change my perspective on itself because okay, a quote that I love is the worst thing to happen to you is the worst thing to happen to you. So it doesn't don't compare to others involving like the pain that you feel because the pain that you feel is the same as somebody else, you know, like if you the worst thing to happen is the worst thing to happen. It's all about your perspective. You can't feel like somebody else had a worse day than you. Like the way that you feel about it is the way you feel about it. It's okay to feel, you know, depressed about a dog dying just as much as a person or fucking whatever it is, you know. It doesn't whatever is the worst thing to happen is the worst thing to happen. So that's all that you know. And
I think
so don't do feel hard on yourself and say that like oh my problems are meaningless or menial comparative because you are comparing and there's no need.
yeah, that's a big issue I have is like comparing myself to others. Like I just can't get around it. It's a hard thing to do to not do, but I mean, it's honestly the best way to be is to just say fuck it to everybody else and live your own life, and that's something I've had trouble coming to terms with, and I'm sure I continue to do so. One thing I always think about is when you get older, like our parents' age, and they're like, well, "There's one day, Ben, where you just stop fucking caring, and that day will come eventually, but I'm not there yet."
No, that's true. I mean, like there has to be a day that you just stop giving a fuck about what other people think
Like, do
and
you just like
like
hit
I mean, like
30
we
and you're
talked about
like,
in the last
"Eh,
episode
fuck
and
it."
like in the gym, like yeah, you quit giving a fuck what other people have. Like you just change your perspective on that. Like worry about what you've got and nobody else fucking matters there.
It's hard. That's all I
It
gotta
is
say.
hard.
It's hard.
It is.
Like
It's
not being
but it's
somebody that has always compared themselves to other people. That's it's hard to change your mindset. It's doable for sure. It's just a tough thing to do, and like
but
you
it's a
figure out how to do
practice.
it eventually. Yeah.
It's a practice of practice. You must constantly practice that practice. So, in doing it, you know, like okay, like I realize that you know, call yourself out on it. I realize that I'm getting in my own head. I think that that person's looking at me. No, they're not. They happen to look out the window. Like I'm a shifty-eyed fuck. So all the time, I think people think I'm looking at them, but I realize like I'm not. So what the fuck do I
Yeah,
care?
I do that same thing. Like I feel like I'm like looking at people for too long when in reality I just like glanced over at them and then looked away and I'm like, whew.
Yeah, and like I just like look around too much. Like yeah, it's there's no need to give a fuck about other people if there's nothing if you're not doing anything wrong, you're not doing anything wrong. It's okay. Like and if you're working on yourself, work on yourself. Don't give a fuck about anybody else looking at you. And like honestly, every time I see a really big dude in the gym or whatever, like I fucking cheer them motherfuckers on.
Yeah,
I don't
dude,
even
that's because that's what part of the reason. The cool thing about the gym is when you do see like those people that have done the work and have gotten the results they wanted. Like it's so cool to see people that like that fucking. This is a big guy in Game of Thrones. The
the
Mountain.
mountain.
I can never remember his actual name. Like Thor
Have
Bjornsson or
have
something.
Thor Bjornsson, yeah.
Like that dude is a big motherfucker, and he is
Yeah.
just the coolest.
Yeah,
Man's
he's
so
fucking
big he got his own sparkling water to be shaped like barbells. It's crazy.
yeah.
Anyway, I digress.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. To go. Just return. I mean, just changing perspectives and like that's what like therapy today allowed me to get a new perspective on some shit, and you know, I changed my perspective on that whole thing. It's like, okay, well, like with my little brother, our relationship and shit. Well, had I stayed there, that's one thing. Like I give a lot of like credit in my life, like to God for is like, thank God I did move when I did, because that I moved when I was 12. That next year is when I hit my growth spurt, and I'm at the size I have been now. Like I was 13 at the same size I am the rest of my life. Like yeah, I like I'm not. I'm like right underneath 6 foot. I was about 200, probably 30 pounds, and I'm a fairly strong person, like naturally. And so if I was that fucking size, I would have fought my fucking stepdad, and there probably wouldn't be one of the two of us here right now. But we get to move on with our lives. And like the hatred that I felt, and the like as a child not knowing how to take care of like my emotion and everything, yeah, dude, like something would have happened and it would have been really, really bad. And thank God that it didn't have to happen that way. I got to
I'm
move.
glad. I'm
Yeah.
glad that this did happen, because if it didn't happen, we probably wouldn't have been able to meet.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Like I wouldn't be where I am now if everything didn't be. It wasn't where it is now, and that is a perspective I have at least taken before this. But something else that is like the person that I am, like the philosophy, the thoughts in my mind, the way that I'm able to take things like and philosophize about them and take things for what they are, not overreact as much. Still working on that, but like just like really fucked up shit, like just hearing it and then moving on and like, okay, like what can we do about that? The person that I am now, I wouldn't be had I stayed in a home where I was, in that like abusive relationship mentally and physically, um, with these people. And so now I can be a better brother. I can be a better person for this world and for the family that I love. And that's like the guilt that I felt was a lot towards like, not being able to be a better brother for my little brother at that time. But now I can be a better person and his friend as an older person to help him deal with his struggles now. And had I stayed around, and we'd be right beside each other with the same thoughts and the same actions. And so now I can help him and I can help all those around me in a better
I
way.
think if you had stayed there, it would have been more difficult for both of you to experience the growth that you did. I think you needed that time apart to reflect on who you were as people. Even if you were young, that bit of time where you can take a step back and actually think about where you're at in life, it works wonders. Like, it works wonders for your relationship with anybody.
Agreed. Yeah, and I mean, like I have a better relationship with my older brother now, and and I'm trying to cultivate a better one with my littlest sister. It's just she lives with my mom and stuff, and even my relationship with my mom is a lot better. That's one thing. Like with my dad, he grew up without a mom, and so he really pushed me. Like even when I like had the deepest hatred for my mom, he pushed me to no, dude, this is your mom. Have a relationship with her. Um, Look, be able to accept the things that happened, be able to forgive, and be able to move forward. And that's something I got to practice from an early age. And it's also like that was something given in perspective today is that I had to make an adult decision as a child because of adults' actions. I had to decide to move away from my family and move in with my dad when I shouldn't have had to do that. I had to move away from my brothers, um, and that shouldn't have had to happen. But
Yeah.
it did. And so and thank God it did in a way, and it sucks that it did in others, but I'm able to be the person I am today because of all of those experiences. And yeah, that's like with my dad. I mean, I don't know. Do you have anything to add or any thoughts with that before I move on?
With what? With like your
Just all
dad,
of it.
or
Well, just like
I
with
mean,
like I don't know, changing your perspective on anything or anything that you've changed your perspective on in life that has helped you move forward.
uh, that's kind of hard to say. Like, I haven't had any like big resounding things, and the one that I could think of that frustrates me the most, like, the best I could say for moving on is I just don't really talk to those people anymore. The way it's just they're not really a part of my life. So,
Well,
I
and
mean,
that's a
cause
great part of being an adult is you get to choose now. Like I don't
like
fuck with these people, so I'm not gonna fuck with them.
yeah. So, I mean, I could probably stand to do a little self reflection myself, but at the same time, I don't know if I'll be just because of how they treated people. It's not even how they like treated me necessarily. I mean, it is a little bit of a part of it, but it's similar to what you went through with your mom, and that how she treated my mom, and I was like, that's awful. Like, it is absolutely terrible, and I honestly kind
You're
of despise you for it. And
referencing
I
your
don't know if
grandmother.
I'll be able to. Yeah, yeah, I am,
Gotcha.
and I don't think I will ever be able to get past it. Just because. it's similar to your situation in that she accused my mom of being the one at fault and basically made her out to be her and my family in general to be the black sheep of the greater family just because of what happened because it rocked the boat and they didn't want that. They wanted everything to be hunky dory and it just wasn't. And they all just ignored it and acted like my mom was just kind of cuckoo, and it really bothered her. And like, she has depression, she's better now. She doesn't really have the depression stuff as bad as she did, but she had depression for the longest part of my life, like until I was probably a junior or senior in high school. She was very bad manic depressive, and I just saw her hurting every day, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to get past that to see like what they did to her because she's so important to me, and that's very frustrating. And now they're trying to come back whenever we go out there and act like everything's fine, and it's really not. Because I don't know. Of course, I haven't been a part of like their personal conversations, but
Yeah.
I know my mom's not over it, and I don't know if she'll ever be able to, just because of how much it hurt her growing up. And I feel like that I didn't get to know some of the people from that side of the family like I would have liked to have because of it. So, I mean, some of the blame can go to my mom, too, because we didn't go there very often to, like, actually meet with them. But when we did, they didn't really put forth a whole lot of effort.
There was most
all.
likely a reason for that. Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
She had a reason. So have you had a discussion with your mom involving that? Like, is like has the relationship gotten any better between her and and her mother, or has it stayed to where just keep an arm's distance, be civil, and just because it's your mom, try and be cool, and
Essentially. Like,
yeah, that's
both of them, well, I don't know about my grandma, but my mom and my dad and my brother-in-law to some extent for different reasons, and my sister too, actually, are more of just they keep her at arm's length. Like, she's invited to the functions, but like we don't.
yeah. I don't have to make your special pie just because you're here.
Like they're invited out of congeniality and because it's the correct thing to do, because that's how my sister is. But if it was like, I feel like such a dick. But if it was like, I wouldn't give it a second thought to just not even think about him, like at all. Like I'd just be like, I don't want you here. I'm sorry. Like whenever if it's, for instance, like we had my niece's birthday the last week, and my brother-in-law does not get along with my grandma at all. And the reason being is like, she does similar stuff to what she did to me and that makes him angry. Where like she just doesn't always try to be a part of her life like she should be, and like she'll brush off going to do something with for like fucking going to Walt Disney World or some shit, and that really bothers it really hurt his feelings, and he's one to hold a grudge.
Yeah.
And he's not at the point where me and my family are at, where we're just civil about it. Like, he is actively frustrated by her whenever she is around.
Well, and that's I mean, that's his kid, and that's he's new to
Yeah, she is
that
his
family.
pride and joy. There is nothing that will ever replace lovers.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I've ever seen someone love a child as much as his daughter. It is absurd.
That's awesome. And yeah, and that's, I mean, that relationship to then see somebody just not give a fuck about it, like wanting to spend time with their granddaughter is quite horrific in my eyes. And I assume in to where he wants a family unit. He wants somebody,
Yeah. He came from a family kind of like yours, where his mom and dad never got married, and they didn't really have a relationship with each other after he... God, I hope he doesn't get mad at me for saying this, but like after they had him, they kind of just went their separate ways, and like from what I've gathered, they've only ever really talked to each other whenever they were, meeting up to take him or go somewhere with him, or like for something that needed both parents there.
Yeah.
And he was mostly raised by his grandparents on his dad's and his dad for the majority of his life.
And I mean,
And
yeah,
recently
and I can tell you,
he was frustrated. I'm sorry, I'm keep going, but
you're,
he was frustrated with his mom too, like you were. But he has started to mend that relationship a lot, actually, and like she loves too, like over there fucking like every weekend, I think, to the point where my mom's jealous. It's so funny. But yeah, I digress. What were you gonna say, sir?
No, and like that, I can tell you that coming from a family like that, like I hold family unit very close to my heart, and like I look very much forward to having a child, to spoil and love and show them what it's actually like to be loved and to actually have something that I can show love to. I don't know.
I think actually
In the
reflecting on
utmost sense.
this whole thing that my perspective did actually change on something now that I think about it, and that
Yeah.
it's not necessarily the people that are related to you by blood that are actually family. It's more along the people that are there for you, like just your friends, your family's family. If they're great people, if they love being around you, if they're supportive, like don't sleep on your friends. They have your back at some of the shittiest times.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like my family is in blood, and the most sense. Like most of my family is friends and people that have been there for me in my darkest hours, uh, which was actually leading up to something I'm going to talk about here in a minute. But yeah, like family means forget about me, I love you, and like that's what family is, the people that sacrifice themselves for you and for your well-being, and that you are willing to sacrifice your well-being to help them. It's not about blood in any way, shape, or form.
It's I couldn't agree more. There's just I've known so many people that mean so much to me, like your dad, for instance. Like it, he was like one of the closest things to like me actually having a godfather was probably your dad.
Yeah, and I mean, you're a dad for me. I mean, fuck, like that's why like we're having him on for the Father's Day special. Is like talking to him about like the motherfucker drove 5 hours to come get me.
I shit you not. You could ask that guy to walk through hell to get you a fucking like pulled pork sandwich, and that motherfucker would do it. Like, that man pulls through.
Yeah, that's I mean, like y'all are family. Y'all are family in the utmost sense. I mean, like, and we have another friend of ours that like I go to their family Christmas, and like I come out to y'all for Thanksgiving, and and see y'all when I can, as much as I can. And like every time I'm at your house, even if I'm there to see you, like I try and go up to see your parents and talk to them for however long, just because y'all are my family. Your dad's
Motherfucker
the
see your
closest.
car outside and he's like, "Get that! I want to see that son of a bitch right now!
You send him
Take me to
upstairs
him!
now.
Take me to that son of a bitch! I want to see him!"
Cut in Vince McMahon video here.
Take me to the son of a bitch!
Yeah, like yeah, that's like the friend like I'm alluding to, like our friend, like whenever like my dad passed away, like that day, like that, like my perspective changed wholeheartedly today on something involving her. That like this is a hard transition. Sorry about this, but
Hard cut.
yeah, but like this is just what we're going to. It's just because like these are my notes for today, like that through therapy, and like if we want to keep this down to an hour, we're gonna have to keep it down. Like go ahead and cut over.
Speed this sucker up, boys. We're already halfway through.
Yeah, but all right. So like, but all right, yeah, like that the day that my dad passed away, my dog passed away that morning, and I took him to the crematorium, and on the way back, there's a crossroads, and if I took a right, I went back to my house, and if I took a left, I was going to my friend's house, and something that's another thing of guilt, that like I felt guilt with my little brother, and I felt guilt with this, and it's a burden I've carried. Is I believe in selflessness. I believe in sacrificing myself for my friends and my family, and I don't care about me. Forget about me. I love you. However, something that's changed today is that I do need to care about myself, because I need to be my best self in order to be the best thing for those people and for those people that I love. Um, Part of that being, sorry, hold on 2 seconds. The earphone's dying.
Party foul.
I know, right? Pipe. Can you find my headphones?
So, welcome to the binge show of the podcast where we talk about Rush. Have you ever listened to Tom Sawyer while playing a classic arcade game, and you just felt yourself get into what is known as the zone, where you are able to conquer any insurmountable odd as soon as that baseline just hits immediately? You become the god of Mario. And if you have not experienced this phenomenon, you should take it upon yourself to jump in and give it a shot. It will change your life. I know it changed mine. I know it'll change yours. And this ends the paid sponsorship for the band Rush. Thanks for listening. Also, if you want, you can check out the album 2112. That's really good too. It's 20 minutes for one song, and it is a pure, blissful 20 minutes of nothing but classic progressive rock. Quite good. Then they kick it up a notch by playing Passage to Bangkok, which is about riding a train through Asia, smoking all the medicinal herbs you can find. For all my bud-loving friends out there. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Dylan, get back here! We're back in business!
All right, back to where we were. We were talking about perspective changes. Okay, yeah, so...
actually, we were talking about Rush.
Yeah, we were talking about the band Rush, and rushing to the greatest drum solo of all time involving YYZ, but...
Coincidentally, Rush also has the greatest guitarist, bassist, and drummer of all time, Geddy Lee, Alex Lifeson, and gone but definitely not forgotten Neil Peart.
I'll agree with one of those.
Alright, Dylan. Go back to your hole of not having headphones, please.
Also,
real men are talking.
Buddy Rich is, in my opinion, probably up there for greatest drummer. I do agree, though, Neil Peart's one of the best, like, jazz to rock, like, overall drummers. If not the best in rock and roll. Bonham's the best at stopping a note when he wants to. Bonham's the crispiest drummer, but I believe Peart is the best when it comes to mixing fucking everything about it. Like, everything about their song.
He's also a songwriter.
And a good songwriter.
He was the primary songwriter for Rush, so get your Rush sacrilege out of here.
Fine.
We don't want that in these parts.
Okay. Fine. I'll take that. All right. Going on. So yes, all right. So the day that like my dog passed away that day. My perspective changed that day, because when I got to that crossroads, I could take a right or I could take a left. And to the right, I went home. To the left, I go to my friend's house. And like I said, like I don't really care about me too much. And that day, I made a decision to do something for me, to do something in the middle of all the stress. I left school to come home and take care of my dad, and I finished all of my finals online. Thank God my teachers were cool about that. So actually, like, COVID did me a favor there, but I got to come home and take care of him and help him out during his surgeries and spend some time with him and talk to him like a person. Told him some shit about me that he didn't know, and he told me some shit about himself, and that's one thing, like, I wish I would have asked more questions. That's why, like, I ask you, Ben, to ask, get some questions together for your dad about him as a person, because you never know what tomorrow brings, and that's the beauty of life and taking it as sacred. and every day is an opportunity to learn about, the people that you love the most. And so, that day I decided to do something for myself. In the middle of all that hell, I decided to go to my friend's house instead of going back to my house immediately. And my friend helped me calm down, and then I went back to my house, and then me and Piper proceeded to go in the house and find my dad. And when I went to do compressions, I went to do CPR on him. I felt his skin was very cold, and his breastbone broke underneath my hands when I went to do compressions immediately. And so to be in that stage of rigor mortis, it's not a couple of hours. Like, that's, you've been gone for a while. And so, I and what I believe is that, he passed away soon after I left that house that day. So, and something that I have never never thought about, and all of my guilt is that the therapist brought to my eyes today, which is, perhaps that day, instead of doing the usual and, going home, instead of caring about like what was good for me, my dad, his spirit had already passed, and he let me know, hey, you're going through hell and it's gonna get shittier, but for right now, take care of something else. Take care of your mind and deal with the passing of my dog Bronson. Deal with that during all of this stress, because it's about to get much harder, and you should at least get a half second of peace before you come back and deal with the hardest thing. And I'd never had that perspective. I never gave myself that time of day to believe that perhaps, and that is exactly something my dad would do, is, sacrifice.
100%.
Yeah, let me get that half second of peace before hell broke loose. And that's all
I think you needed that more than you realized before, because before you mentioned the therapist saying that, I was thinking that already, that it sounded like that was something you desperately needed before walking into that. Just dealing with all of that with your dog and whatnot.
I mean,
and dealing with your dad at that time, it would have been a mental burden of this crazy proportions.
Yeah, beyond
and
even
you
what
needed
it
that
was.
little bit of time just to unwind and just let loose a little bit, calm down, reset yourself so that you could be ready to deal with something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't think you should ever feel guilty about that. Like, we as people need to have that little bit of comfort just for anything. You need that little bit of time, your me time, that helps you tremendously. And you should never feel guilty about that.
And
That's it's important, because you'll spread yourself too thin.
That is the guilt I have held for 2.5 years now, and it is something that like has burdened me and eaten away at me. And well, no, I mean, that transitions well into one of the podcast ideas I was talking about, is that, one of the things that I wrote down in our notes, is in the notes that I sent to you, is not being able to talk to somebody. God bless you. Not being able to talk to somebody about, like, the only other person that truly understands something, and not being able to talk to them. Not being able to talk to my little sister when we're the only ones that have that relationship with our dad. She isn't able to talk to me, and I'm not able to talk to her because of the choices of other people, because of adults doing dumb shit, and there's no need, holding anger where there doesn't need to be anger, and being just vile towards other human beings. And some people won't learn, some people will, and I pray for that, ignorance to be, taken away, for them to have their eyes open to the light. But some people don't open up their hearts, and that's life. That's okay. I accept that. But I know that I will be able to talk to my little sister again, and tell her the truth and show her the reality of all of this. And she, one of these days, will be able to listen to these episodes and hear what really happened that day, and who her brother is, and not be painted in the picture that is painted for her.
It's all a matter of perspective.
It is. It is all a matter of changing your perspective, and being willing to change it and accept things for being different, and for what things really are, instead of what you perceive them to be. Um, and yeah, like so, like yeah, that was something that burdened me for a long time. Was like with that decision and hearing, like, and I blamed myself in a lot of ways, like with my dad's death. And learning to change my perspective today on that, involving, like, yeah, that is 100% something my dad, I can see my dad, using his energy to change mine, because I have always been a person that is forget about me, I love you. And that day was the first day that I made a decision to actually help myself and move for myself, make a move for myself. And I went to go see a friend and get at least a little bit of peace before hell broke loose. And 2.5 years later, I'm finally able to see a little bit of light from all of that darkness. And I mean, I've been in quite a world of darkness for these 2.5 years. Silently and verbally at times, I express it to my friends. I express it to the people that I love, and we talk about it. And talking about it with you helps a lot, and because you know him, and that's you knew my dad, and that this is what helps the most, is being able to talk about these things like with you. And yeah, man, I just getting a different perspective on life and being willing to change that perspective is beautiful, and I thank
I'm
God for
happy
that
for you.
ability.
I'm glad you're able to come to terms with what you needed to do. I'm glad you're able to not feel as guilty about it as you once did. And I think
Mm.
that's what we all need, is someone to pat us on the back and say it was okay. You made the decision you made because you needed to.
Yeah, here, yeah, and like that was something like, you do matter. I'm not just a You're not just a person to serve others. You do matter in your own right. Um, and that I have held the philosophy of, no, I don't care what happens to me. I want to serve others, but part of it too is that you do have to do things for yourself in order to actually truly serve others and help others. You have to help yourself to be the best version of you. And that, I mean, part of why I went to therapy is for that reason. And thank God I did. Thank God every day for that. And the thought to go there, and I just happened to randomly choose that one, and you know, and it happened to randomly be music therapy. It happened to randomly be about the thing that helps me cope in the most, and with the anxiety and depression and the anger and everything else that's been expressed in this podcast thus far. And thank God.
Got deep in this one, I'll tell you. But I agree. I think, no, I know music is one of the best coping mechanisms, because it listening to a certain song can completely change how you're feeling at that point in time. Like, you can go deeper into how you're feeling already depending on what you listen to, or you can listen to something that'll just pull you right out of it.
Absolutely.
Like, that's what one of the things that I do whenever I'm feeling down is, as I listen to music or songs that activate the neurons, and they make me feel better because they have that nostalgia factor, or just something that I associate with a happy time in a happy place. And I
Fucking
think
A.
that's a powerful method for coping with bad things happening.
Fucking A, man. That's my challenge this week in therapy for next week is to write out and realize, like, what are the things that bring me happiness and help me in a day. So yeah, I can do things for 23 hours of the day to help others, but for that 1 hour, I need to do something for myself and help myself. And so recognizing that, and like I didn't have an answer for her today when she asked, what is something that you enjoy or that helps you be you. And I didn't have an answer, and she, was not. She said that she was not surprised, considering everything else I've said involving
It's
that.
a hard thing.
And so that's
Having that answer of what makes you happy, that's a difficult thing to just up and say. That takes self reflection to figure out.
and so that is
Like,
my challenge for myself, and my challenge for all of you guys listening. If you have any of the similar feelings, like, please reflect on yourself and what makes you happy, and make sure you do that for yourself. Don't lose sight of that.
mm-hmm.
What helps bring the peace back to you. Um, Any last words, sir? Before
No.
you're shot.
Before I, oh fuck, I didn't know it was one of these. I mean, no, I've said most of what I wanted to say. Really, it's a very eye-opening conversation that we've had. My heart goes out to you, to be honest. I'm. There's a lot that you've told me today that I didn't know, and it's astounding to me. And I wish I could have been there for you, but that's neither here nor there.
You are, man. That's one thing. Never think you aren't. You are. You are here for me, man. You have no idea how much I love your family and I love you, dude. And like, y'all, yeah, there's a reason, we're doing this. You're here for me.
I guess that's fair. Yeah, people say I'm pretty cool. No, I'm joking. But yeah, I mean, like we were saying about what makes you happy. Don't let anybody ever put you down for doing what you enjoy, or if you ever do need that me time that is critically important to your mental health, that one of the things that needs to come first is you taking care of yourself, because you can't take care of others if you're not taking care of yourself.
Absolutely.
That's something else I learned in therapy myself when I went, is you have to be in your right headspace to be able to help others that are in their rough headspace. Absolutely. And I've got plenty of experience from other things trying to help people, and I wasn't in the best headspace, and it tore me up inside too when I was dealing with it. And I felt like I didn't have anywhere to go to about it, because it was members of my friend group that were like, I don't know if it's a spat or like fight, but it was difficult.
I think that's where having a therapist or having somebody that's outside that can't judge you, doesn't have to like know these people, it's not going to get back to anybody else. That I think that's where it does help to have that person. And like that's the good thing about this place is like they do work on, like they work according to your income, and so like I can actually pay them what I can pay them, instead of having to fucking go out of my way to like be like, I can't afford this week. Yeah.
The fact that they actually try and make sure that you get the help you need with the amount you can spend on it, that works wonders. Yeah. That you're not just stuck paying what you have to pay.
And if you want it, or anybody like listening wants like the place that I go to, just DM me or talk to me or whatever. I don't have Instagram, so any of you fucks that are actually going to ask, you should definitely have my number. So
yeah, that's another thing. Actually, we've been talking about therapists. Don't ever think that going to a therapist is something that means you're crazy. It's not. Like, everybody needs someone to talk to, and some of the stuff that you need to talk about is not something you can talk about with your family or your friends. It is something you need to unload on somebody that will not judge you at all, because they are completely unbiased.
Yeah.
Because they don't know you or your friends, so...
And remember, like, this isn't the first one I went to. This isn't the first person. You're not always going to find the right one straight out the gate. Yeah.
It takes time. Everything takes time. And you've got to go until you find someone that meshes with you. Because it's all it is a conversation with another person that is trying to help you. And you're not going to gel with everybody, just like trying to make new friends. It doesn't always work out. So you just got to stick with it.
Amen. Yeah, the therapy is a beautiful thing. Also, if you don't have my number, and if you're a person that I don't know or don't talk to or whatever, we do actually have an Instagram. It's House of the Faded Sun. And you can DM that Instagram. I'll be checking the inbox. I'll probably re-download Instagram and just log into that account. I just was using it too much for my personal account. I don't like having that vice of constantly getting on something for that dopamine like drop. But yeah, if you're still listening, thank you very much. I love you, and yeah, man. My final thing I want to say is just listen to "Do Better" by Ab-Soul, A-B Soul, and look up the story behind the song. Shout out to my little brother for showing it to me. It's beautiful, and if you can meditate on that song with a notebook in your hand and think about what brings you peace and what will bring you happiness to not get to the places that man got to in that song, Talk to whoever you need to talk to. Do whatever you need to do. Every day is worth living. Move on to the next. And if today blows, go to bed. Sometimes tomorrow, sometimes today is not it.
There's always another day.
There's always another day. Love you, buddy.
Love you too.
All right, boys. We'll talk to y'all later.
Bye.